Hello, my name is Mike Skibra. Welcome to day 2 of Softron's Virtual Exhibition. Yesterday, we had a live session on 24-hour broadcast, and today's live session will be on nonprofits and how they're using Softron products. These live sessions are recorded. They are going to be on our website. Yesterday's session is already on our website, and you can view the session if you didn't catch one. We have several guests with us today and several people from Softron. Our CTO, Pierre Chevalier, who's normally based in Brussels, is here, and our support staff in Henderson, Nevada is represented by David Belisle. Next up, as I mentioned, we have 2 guests, Matt Timmons and Bryce Seifert. Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself. I haven't spoken to you in a few years, but I do know the name. I'm familiar with what you do. It's been some incredible things over the last couple of years. So please tell the audience what you're all about.
Awesome. Yeah. Matt Timmons coming at you live from Fort Worth, Texas today. I currently am the digital architect for Synesys. Synesys is a huge integrator for SANs, media infrastructure. I oversee all of our asset management and development and putting all the pieces in the glue together. Additionally, I own a company called Workflow Network, where we create a lot of applications for churches, for broadcast, and just more glueware, making your life easier, taking 5 clicks down to 1. And before that, I spent 20 years at the Great Fellowship Church in Grapevine, Texas. And from there, I oversaw all the production technologies, producing our services and experience, and working with teams of staff, but most importantly, teams of volunteers, people that would come in just on Sunday to click buttons and be a part of what we are doing there at Fellowship Church. Fellowship is an amazing place with 20,000 plus members, and huge 4,000 seat auditorium. And we would do stuff. Just incredible things. Like, almost think of it like the Grammy Awards every weekend. It was an absolutely incredible, and still is. The team does an amazing job. And when it comes to Softron, we were looking, 15 years ago for a solution that could capture our services and ingest feeds and ISOs and you name it directly to our SAN, storage area networks, what it stands for. And then, more importantly, also capture to a backup location and also make a H.264 version of it along with the ProRes, and be able to edit what we're recording while it's happening. And suffice to say, we found Softron and Daniel, Pierre, Mike, everybody there through a great connection we also had at Synesys at the time. And we're now able, Fellowship Church does this, captures 14 feeds real time to their SAN, also to a backup location, also record an H.264 that can be used immediately on the web. And the editors drop in all the ISO feeds into Adobe Premiere Pro, and they're editing it. And the moment you hit stop, they update their timeline and hit export, and they're done. And they're able to go home now 4 hours earlier than they used to when they had to wait for file transfers and copies. But not only with Movie Recorder, we also use On-the-Air Video Express and On-the-Air Video, where it makes play out, first of all, very robust. If you're playing back something that's 30 minutes plus long, or even short form things, you want it to be robust and work, and your frame rates to be right, and things to be just perfect. Softron On-the-Air Video gives that ability, and that is why so many places in the house worship market use On-the-Air Video, from some small churches to some of the largest churches in America, as well as On-the-Air Movie Recorder as well, to do their recording. So that's a little bit of about me and what I've done with Softron, and we'll talk more about that later. Thanks, Mike.
Sure. No, that was great. That was great, and I love your enthusiasm. That's the thing about Softron people. They're really enthusiastic about what they're doing, as opposed to the long, boring treadmill that they have with some other products. So now I put the onus on you, Seifert. You got to get up there. You got to talk. Let's see. Tell us about yourself and tell us what brought you to Softron and how you're working with the product.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'll try and match the enthusiasm. I'm Bryce. I'm actually just down south from Matt in Austin, Texas. I'm the studio manager at the University of Texas, which is a large educational institution down here. So I'm basically the chief video engineer for all of our sort of campus studios, which spread across like multiple buildings. And I sort of design our infrastructure as it relates to video broadcasting, as well as help train our student employees, to use all the equipment, because we sort of see ourselves as both a place to, make content and record content, but also to train students who want to learn how to make content and be in the live production world. So I sort of help oversee that initiative for our video programs here. In addition to that, in my free time, I serve as just a freelance technical director for concerts, live events, you name it, because, if it's anything about video people, you can't get enough video in your life. And I sort of first stumbled on Softron actually fairly recently, probably right around a year ago, when we were looking for a way to not be shuttling around hard drives anymore. Our old system was sort of, very analog. We would record to a disk, we would pull out the disk, someone would take the disk to a computer, upload the disk to the server, and then we'd have to get started editing. That was fine, back when I started here 5 years ago, and we were doing, 4 things a week. Now when we're doing, closer to 50 different events, that was just not holding up and scaling well. And so all the other solutions I sort of spec'd out, I, felt like I could understand them and I could operate them, but there was no way that I was going to be able to just make it easy enough for everyone else that I work with, especially with the turnover of students graduating, because great, I can train someone up, but after a finite time, they're gone. But I finally, luckily, stumbled upon Softron, I think on some forum somewhere, as you do. And I immediately was like, we need to get this. And now we're sort of using it across all of our studios daily. And it's been a real time saver for us and a real sanity saver for me.
Great, thank you. A lot of people don't realize how many installations there are amongst the houses of worship and the educational market, where Softron is integral in the actual operation. And it goes from small churches where they just have maybe one recorder and one playout, where they're actually doing time slipping for their congregations, to a situation like you're describing, where they do 50 events and you need the various ingests. Bryce mentioned that he's recording 14, Matt mentioned he's recording 14 different incoming signals at a time. And, that's pretty hefty. And it's being done on a Macintosh, as opposed to a system that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. If we go back in the video industry, I remember where you spent a couple $1 million for maybe a terabyte of storage on a paintbox system. And now, that's an absurdity. No one even believes that when you tell them, because the Macintosh gives you so many capabilities. And one of the reasons it offers so many capabilities is the hardware that's now available for it, and the software that has become really solid. Softron's always had a solid reputation and solid features, but they've become better and better over time. The point that you made about staffing, people coming in on a Sunday or new students, something like that, the efficiency of learning Softron is very, very important. So how many staff, Matt, do you think you actually have that have been trained on software, on Softron software over the course of a year? How many people do you think different people actually use it?
It's interesting. It's like from a staff perspective, like employees, very few. I would say, probably less than 20. But we've trained around 100 non-staff people who are not, they don't have a paycheck from hitting a button. People that literally come in from doing all sorts of different things in different industries that have been able to learn Softron and how to make it work and function. Of course, the staff that are trained very well. I mean, you can ping them and say, what does this button do? And they can tell you exactly what that button does, all the way down to scheduling things with Movie Recorder and playing things back with on-air video. But being able to train people that this is not their profession, they just need to be able to come in and actually just execute a service, and they want to feel like they're a part of it. That's one thing I love about how Softron works, is because they're not walking up to some big switcher panel that's, can be intimidating. They're using a Mac, and they use a Mac at home. They have a Mac probably with them. It's very easy to use. And if you can click and point and right click on the desktop and double click on a folder like my mom does, you can easily use the Softron interface. And what's also cool about it is, if you're, sometimes you're like me and you're a little worried, well, I don't want them to click too fast, or I don't want them to hit stop by accident. There's some really cool features that Softron has to be able to lock things so they don't accidentally happen. For instance, so you don't accidentally hit stop on your record. You can lock a recording. So you don't accidentally hit stop on a playback. You can lock a playback. So there's really cool things that maybe even Daniel and Pierre didn't even think about that help actually make it even more accessible for people in the house of worship market. Thanks, Mike.
Great. Bryce, what can you tell us about staffing and learning and training and things of that nature? Because you have 50 events. That's a lot of events.
Yeah. So how we operate is we have, I have a subset of sort of full-time employees. And those are the people that I train on, like the hands-on, using the app and all the intricacies of the app, which is great that it's so easy to use. And then for our student operators, who are also doing a lot, because in our situation, they're being the technical director, they're being the graphics operator, they're being the camera ops, like remote cameras. So they have a lot of roles sort of folded into one. And so I worked heavily to make that more automated and just sort of a simple thing for them to do. So, I have a button that says record, extend record. And I've really worked to simplify it. And it's great that Softron allows that sort of interfacing with their apps to, make that so simple for them. Instead of having to worry about, logging onto computer, they can use the API to trigger recordings and not even have to, find someone or worry about getting a hard drive or anything like that. So it's been really great so far.
That's excellent. We're going to come back because I know you develop using the REST API. Matt develops using the REST API. Pierre, you visited a lot of nonprofits on your travels, both here and abroad. I'm sure you have something to say about what you've seen in the various organizations that you visited.
Yeah, well, it's about the staffing and so on. It's really something that I think is important in those environments. You don't always working with people that know the broadcast environment. So you need something that is really too easy to use. And that's what we try to do at Softron. Always explain that it's easy if you have a customer that asks for a feature, you say, oh, I'll add a button there. But then the next customer, and you add more and more buttons. And in the end, you have a complicated user interface. But we try to bring new features without making the user interface complicated. So we always have a lot of discussion about it. But also about the fact too that we use a Mac. There's, as you explained, guys, is that it's easy. People are used to using Mac, so they don't have to learn a new workflow, new environment. So, but it's also the fact that we are using off-the-shelf Mac computers. It also means that you can use your Mac, for example, at one specific moment to record and then to play out and then read your emails. Or if you have a computer that is used, we've had that numerous times in TV stations where they were using a Mac and then to broadcast, for example, or record, and then it fails. It happens rarely, but yeah, it's hardware, it can fail. And it was easy. They just got to the editing station, took the Mac from there, and then, yeah, very, very quickly they were able to replace. So the fact that we're using off-the-shelf computers also makes life easier. And that's something that I've heard a lot also, is that, yeah, you can take anyway, move it around, use it differently, and replace them in case there is an issue.
I know that a lot of places have a backup, which is a simple Mac Mini. You know, and they always have that available. The software is preloaded, and if anything were to happen, they just replace the Mac Mini and they're ready to go. Bryce mentioned the API, and there's a lot of integration that goes on with Softron and other products. There's hardware integration, and there's software integration, and there's development integration. And the REST API is a tool that software provides, allowing people to write code on their own, not too tricky code, but write code to make their life easier. Bryce, tell us what you've been doing with the REST API.
Thanks. Yeah. So the two things that I sort of needed to attack were scheduling, because of the volume of productions we do. And so the first thing I built is a sort of GUI for scheduling that's like a web-based interface. So no matter where I am, I can log into it and see what's scheduled to be recorded. I can easily copy whole weeks of recordings and paste them onto the next week, because, you know, most of what we do is cyclical, like online courses. So you're meeting every Monday, Wednesday. So instead of having to do that manually, I can just copy and paste whole weeks. I can easily, you know, cancel stuff if I just go to the date on the calendar, instead of having to search for it. And so that's really made my life easier, because I sort of oversee all the QA of, like, we are recording everything. I have everything accounted for. And I can also pull that calendar right up next to our, like, booking calendar and see, yep, these match, you know, visually, or, oh, there's a big open spot on the recording where we have something booked. So that's nice. And then the other thing I've been using the REST API for is I made the BitFocus companion module for Movie Recorder. And so BitFocus Companion, I'm sure everyone is aware, is an open source software that allows you to use the Stream Deck for a lot of different video production needs. And so again, I needed an easy way for our operators to control Movie Recorder without having to, you know, physically use the computer, since they're at their little, you know, TD stations. And so this is just an example of a Stream Deck with all of the feedback, where you can start, stop recording, see the recording status. Again, we use a lot of scheduled recordings, so you can see how much time is left and extend a scheduled recording if, you know, someone's talking a bit too long. And so that's been really helpful in terms of getting it deployed quickly, because I think we would have always ended up using Movie Recorder, but I think the pace with which we were able to roll it out to all of our spaces was greatly helped by being able to build these two tools using the, like you mentioned, very easy to use REST API. So yeah, that's how we're sort of using it in our space.
Okay, and Matt, you've been using Softron products longer than a lot of other people, and you were even developing applications prior to the REST API becoming available. And now you're switching everything over to the REST API. You want to tell us about your development and integration?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, it's huge that there's a REST API for both, really for all the products, but specifically Movie Recorder and on-the-air video. And I actually have a screenshot, the first slide here, Daniel and Pierre, where I've got, it kind of shows my producer station. So if you're a producer at a show or a service or anything you're doing, this is kind of what it looked like for me. I'm looking at all the feeds coming in. So you got on there, a Movie Recorder there, kind of right there in the right side. But one of the things that's important is to make sure all the different video playouts. So your, you know, pre-rolls, your, you know, B-rolls, your videos that you're playing on screens, you want to make sure that the right thing is loaded, the right version of the thing is loaded. And if it's set to loop or autoplay the next one, that's all very important stuff for a producer to know that the team has right. And so I built a little program that I called the Playout Status Monitor. And it's right there on the right of your screen. And it basically just showed me as a producer if something's playing, how much time's remaining, and what's in the playlist. And so this made it really easy. As I called back to the control room, I didn't have to ask them to count me out from 10 seconds anymore. I could literally see what was happening in on-air video. It also gave a lot of confidence for producers as well, for us to know, again, just what's going on. Like, did they actually load in the correct new version of something? Again, because things never change in a production, right? So you're able to know what's going on with this little playout status monitor. Just connected to on-air video using the REST API. Real simple to write. It was actually written in at the time as in Objective-C. So really fun, really cool things. But this is kind of the beginning, because with Workflow Network, we have a really cool application called LiveTime, and we're actually going to be building in where LiveTime can chain to a on-air video source as well. So we'll be able to have on our actual stage displays and counters how much time's remaining in a particular playout as well. And that's all going to be driven via the API. The REST API, again, is a huge thing to make it easy to tap in and to extend the Softron technology specifically just for you. And I'll say, like, what Bryce wrote, guys, that's amazing. That is really, really cool stuff. So great job, Bryce, on that. Like, I wish I would have had that, like a calendar for scheduling. That's really, really cool. So great job.
Great. Thank you. Fascinating, some of the things that go on. The real question that people in nonprofits might have is, what about the support? I mean, what type of support do you get from Softron when you're actually trying to put together your own application that integrates not only with Softron, but with other hardware? Matt, you want to touch that question?
Yeah, most definite. First of all, fantastic support. I'll never forget, on a Monday morning, I sent in a ticket. I was at the zoo, and here Pierre is responding to me. I'm sitting at the zoo. I'm like, this guy's actually responding to me within like 20 minutes, really fast. And we had a solution in play by the end of the day. The support is unbelievable. These guys are on top of it. They understand. And what's really cool about it, as opposed to like, hey, just send me a log, the support features that are built into the application to easily send information to them it's amazing. Like, I should copy and do that in my own applications. Like, it's absolutely incredible. And you're able to track, of course, with the ticketing system and keep touch. But I mean, they've got a really good pulse on things. Their guides on how you set up things. And as Mike mentioned earlier, the fact that everything just runs in Mac OS, it's real easy to work. And you never have to ask the question of future compatibility, because Daniel and the team there are always aggressively developing ahead of the curve to make sure that macOS Monterey is supported, that Apple Silicon is supported. They're on it, guys. You don't have to ask the question, is this OS from last year supported? Of course it is. They work their butts off to make sure everything is in line and progressing fast with the pipeline of technology. And the support, like I said, completely matches that with things. There's times where you're testing a beta version, you're able to give feedback. And it's just really cool to have that transparency working with the development team at Softron. And also, like I mentioned, just working with other external devices, from the Blackmagic cards you may use, or an Aja card. I mean, all that stuff works extremely well with the system. But what you're able to get out of Softron to know what's happening, seeing how playback's working from like your buffers and your recordings and where all that other destinations, like, it makes it super easy to support for any engineer. And then on top of the support that you get from the Softron team, it's unparalleled. It's absolutely amazing.
Great. We love to hear that type of thing. Bryce, what can you add?
I mean, I think Matt really said it. The support is second to none. I remember specifically when I was first sort of still in the investigation stage of like different solutions, and I was trying out Movie Recorder, and just as I was trying to figure out if there was a way to, when it finished recording, to send me a Slack. That was like my dream goal, is like, if they can do this, I'm writing the check tomorrow. I don't write the checks, but that was my mindset. And I was having a little bit of trouble. Like I think, part of it was me being new and all that stuff, but I emailed support and we got something working just incredibly quickly. And I was just, in that moment, I was just like, okay, these guys are for real. You know, we have people who know what they're doing, who reply promptly, and it was just an amazing experience having been through different support experiences from other places. So I'm really happy with the support. I utilized it a lot to just ask questions, to bounce ideas off of, and they've always been supportive and helpful. So I can't speak highly enough of the support team you guys have.
Great. David,
Oh,
you're based here in Nevada. So you obviously get a lot of those support calls coming in. And I know we've often joked that we have 24/7 support because Softron is such a international company with offices in Brussels and offices here in Nevada. What would you like to tell us about support, David?
well, one, yeah, I was a customer first, like I said, and being able to call and talk to someone who knows the product was a huge change for me because my background in broadcast where, hey, I'm paying for a support system and I call, and then it's a person who doesn't know the product and they're like, we'll call you back once someone's available. And it's like, but it's an emergency now, like when they're available. And so it was like hours later. And so it was a completely different experience the first time I remember calling, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, yes, we know, okay, we can help you with this, and here we go, here's a fix. And even what you were saying, trying out a beta version, I remember someone said, oh, we have a beta version, and what's the process to do it? Oh, it's a 30-minute process to update it, and if it doesn't work out, you're going to have to reflash the entire playout system and start over and build it back up. And I tried the beta, it failed, and this was like, the show was an hour away, and it was like within minutes I got the playout system back up. And so, the first time they said, oh, try the beta, my heart pounded a little, and they're like, no, it's really simple. You just put it into your applications folder, and you can just compress the old one. And if it doesn't work like you want, just get rid of the beta and uncompress it. And I was like, that's it? Okay, that was minutes. But no, to what you guys are doing, Bryce and Matt, to see the integrations you're doing, broadcast, there's all this money behind it. There's all this, thought of, okay, here's a solution. But what you guys are doing is great because you're taking the products and you're morphing it to how you need it, and that's what that's what Softron wants to be. We want to be, a solution for multiple people, and you guys are doing that, and I think that's wonderful to see for both of what you've done for both of your products. So I think that's exactly what we want to see.
Yeah.
Pierre?
But the support, it's very nice. Thank you for the comments and what you're saying. So it's always good to hear. And we didn't ask for you, but it's always nice because it takes a lot of efforts, of course, and in order to be able to be responsive, to be there. For us, it's very important. We said it yesterday in the live show. We try to be a company that is open, so all our software using open solutions that are easy to integrate with, but also accessible, and try to respond very quickly to support, because we know in what kind of environments our solutions are used. That usually if there is anything going on, you need to have a solution quick because you'll have a production soon. So it's not like we can say, oh, we'll reply to you in 2 weeks' time, and you'll be like, my production will be done by then. So so we're trying to be as responsive as possible and handling a free support. I think also it's something, it's all in the logic and the way we see the company working, is open solution, being accessible, and that everything is clear, because when you have these solutions where you have to pay for support and maintenance fees and so on, you have to repay every year and so on. And we like, to have something that is clear. You pay one time, you have this covered, and we'll be there for the free support. So, and it also makes, to be honest, our life easier, because we don't have to ask the question, oh, and what's your contract number? So I'll see if I can help you or not. So yeah, we never have to ask that question. And so that's good for us. And yeah, I also like the feature that Matt mentioned about the way that you can contact our support from the application. So in the help menu of all applications, you have contact Softron support, and you can directly from there submit a ticket. It will upload the logs, everything that we need. So we don't have to tell you also. It's something, in the past we didn't have that, but it's been a while now we have it. But and then we had to ask, oh, you have to find the logs there, and you send it, and then it was complicated. So it makes our life also. So yeah, we try to make our life easier as well, because immediately we have all the information we need in the ticket, so we can help as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I'm a sales guy, so I generally try to stay away from the word free. I like to consider it as built-in support. When we sell a Softron product, the support is built in, and we want people to know that they can count on us. It's not something that they have to ask for, and it's not something that we act like it's a gift that we give. It's something that we expect. If we have a customer who is having an issue, particularly a nonprofit, I remember one of the biggest issues that used to come up was when people were implementing a Softron solution for movie recorder. They would record to their internal hard drive. And they were embarrassed about calling because they figured, okay, this has to work, but what am I doing wrong? And I said, you don't have to be embarrassed. There's some things that oftentimes people do, and they're just not aware of what they do. So they had to record to an external drive in order to get the speed correct and record correctly. So support is a major ingredient. It is part and parcel with the applications. Now, Matt and Bryce both mentioned third parties, and I think some of them even mentioned specifically Blackmagic Design. We just recently came out with HyperDeck emulation, and I know that a lot of people also integrate with the HyperDeck. Pierre or David, could you talk about our work with Blackmagic Design, our HyperDeck emulation? What is it, and where would people use it?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the ATEM integration, so the HyperDeck emulation. So my career was, almost about 6-9 years. I can't remember how many years I was on switchers and in production and doing production automation. And to see that now we can act as this HyperDeck, so we can say, okay, this is our playlist, this is our content right in the HyperDeck. So you can just have on-the-air video off to the side. And I love to imagine that if you're controlling the ATEM and the GUI, you can have on-the-air video on the side. So now you're just right on one screen. You have your switcher and video right there. And that you can just, as you're cutting and you're going to your video, it's going to start playing. And then if you cut off of it, it's going to cue the next one. And so it just makes it very simple. But when you combine that with something like CG Server or DGO, and then you can do actions on those clips to say, I want a name super to show up at 15 seconds in, and I want this to happen in the clip. And to do that all non-destructively to the clip, I think is so great on the HyperDeck. And it's not just, we have these little ATEM minis here, but it's also on the huge production studio versions. And so that's just a really powerful tool, just another thing that we've added. And what Bryce has said about BitFocus Companion, it's the completely opposite direction. Here's this open source, here's this product that we can now control. And one of the things, again, controlling an Apple script, right from there, being able to control pieces of all the products that we do right from the BitFocus support. So I think that's, that's just a lot of different integrations as far as third party and being able to do that. And of course, Pierre can talk more about Blackmagic.
Yeah, well, it's all these integrations, and we've talked a lot about integration, REST API, but I also want to reassure that you don't have to use it. Our software can be used just drag and drop, simple documents and so on. But I mentioned the fact that we are trying to bring features without making the user interface complex, and it also can be done through the integration. And for example, the HyperDeck emulation for the ATEM, it's also something that makes things easier for users, because some users won't even see the on-the-air video in application. They will just have the ATEM software control and with the list of clips showing up there. Maybe they won't even know it's an on-the-air video that is playing. And it's the same thing for the REST API and all the other integration. We know we have customers who are controlling our software for either playout or recording, but never actually see our user interface because it's all done remotely. So yeah, all these integrations, I think it can bring new features. We have the same thing, for example, for the CG. So we have our playout, recording, character generator application that can overlay graphics on top of video. And these graphics can be controlled by a simple web page. So it makes also, again, things very easy. You are remotely on your computer, you open a web page URL, and then you just type the new name that you want to be on, press play, and it will air. So yeah, I think those integrations.
So you're saying that you can actually use a web page. So you mean
Yes.
that I can actually log on a non-Mac computer on a PC running Windows, and I can control it that way.
Yeah. So with all these REST APIs, so REST API, just to sum up quickly because you mentioned it, but it's, for those who don't know, it's a protocol that is used to integrate with web servers, and it's a protocol that is widely known as web developers. They know what a REST API is, so it's very easy to integrate with. And of course, a web developer could build his own web page in order to control us, but we have some sample pages where you can connect to our recording, playout, CG, and to basic stuff like start, stop playing, start, stop recording, and things like that.
Okay. Matt, you obviously at Synesys, you do a lot of integration. So it's not just Softron that you're working with or a Matt. Do you want to describe a typical installation and the products that you integrate along with Softron software?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Softron is one of the keys to the puzzle. It's one of the pieces to it because especially in the house of worship domain, I've been in so many places where they'll have a very expensive capturing device. It's recording somewhere, and then they have to come in on Tuesday or Monday, and then they have to spend time copying this ProRes 4444444 times 20 to their wherever they're you don't need to capture that high. That's another aside. But they're capturing these massive files to where they're going to edit on it, and then they're editing on it, and then they got to move files from here to yonder. Like, it's just the whole process is just a mess. Like, it doesn't have to be that hard. So one of the things that we do at Synesys, again, is I like to take 5 clicks down to 1, is making it to where you have a high performance storage solution. So we work with people like Quantum, DDP, Dynamic Drive Pools over in the Netherlands, with high performance SANs to be able to capture, and NASs as well. So we can take the Mac Pros, capture it directly to your SAN using a great ProRes format if you want. I prefer LT, it's amazing. And also we'll capture it locally to an SSD just so we have a backup in case there happen to be some form of failure. So we'll help design that infrastructure. But again, it's also helping educate people of why you don't need 444 necessarily for just a standard broadcast recording, why LT is okay. And then once that file lands, where does it sit? How do you organize it? What's the right way to name your files? Like, how do you use all those really cool file naming tokens that this team at Softron has provided? We help with best practices with that stuff. And it's stuff that has worked and has stood the test of time. So from there, from then at that point, how you edit it, perhaps how you manage all your assets with asset management systems. We work with all sorts of different asset management systems. As a matter of fact, Pierre and I even just recently working on some stuff for metadata controlling and how metadata is written into the QuickTime file to make it easy for asset management systems to pull information out. So we work with all sorts of people like that to help kind of, again, glue all those components together. And Softron is so easy to work with that. I don't have to go through 50 sales channels to talk to someone. I can literally say, hey, Pierre, what's up? How can we make this sort of this metadata is written in the header this way, or the JSON structure or whatever? Like, it's so easy. It's a support ticket away. And we have an answer, and many times a beta like a week later if there's something big that we're needing tweaked. So that's one of the things that we do at Synesys. Again, we just take those clicks down to as small as possible, and we help advise our customers of here's what works, and here's how it can work for you. Here's why not to do this, or here's why to do this. And integrating all those components, because you can spend all day trying to figure out what IO cards work, or what spec of the Mac Pro, or Where should a file be copied? Should there be a finder color label? I don't know. Should there be? We help walk through all that stuff to make it easy and repeatable and a successful holistic installation for the nonprofit.
Thank you. Very interesting. And Bryce, you have these 50 events that you have to schedule and readjust your schedule. What types of installations do you usually have that you're working around? What type of hardware? What type of other switchers, let's say, or other devices that you find yourself using?
Yeah, so we have sort of a mix of, facilities and situations. So we have some more sort of traditional video production studios. So we're using like the Blackmagic suite of, switchers, HyperDeck, things like that. And then we also have some that are like integrated into more like classroom type situations. And so we have a mix of like TriCasters and even stuff like Wirecast and things like that that are servicing those stations. So the great part is it doesn't really matter what the front end is. It all works with Movie Recorder and what we're doing. And I think the one comment I'll make about sort of the integration is we still use our HyperDecks and record to them. That's what we were using before Movie Recorder. We still use them as a backup. But now simply we have, when Movie Recorder starts recording, it sends a trigger and starts the disk as well. And then they're on sort of a rotating A/B like formatting schedule as just a backup, because wouldn't be a video engineer if you didn't have a backup. But I will say I have not used those backups. I've not had to pull those backups once since using Movie Recorder. So yeah, we use a lot of Blackmagic stuff. So I'm excited to hear about the HyperDeck emulation, and also looking forward to checking that out because I have not got a chance to do that yet.
Great. There's just a reminder to everybody listening that we have a video clip on HyperDeck emulation on our YouTube page. Pierre, we mentioned a number of different hardware products. I have two questions for you specifically that I'd like you to go into a little bit. NDI and Apple Silicon. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so compatibility is two different things, but compatibility with Apple Silicon, as Matt said, we started working a long time ago with it. So we're currently, all our applications are universal. Well, almost all. We have some, but the main ones on the video, Movie Recorder, on the SCG, they are all working natively. And the thing is that we had to work not only with our code. Our code, in fact, from day one, it was ready to go on the M1. But of course, we are using third parties. For example, in order to output to an AJ or Blackmagic data cascade, we have to work with their SDK, and they had to port. And we had to wait for that. For the encoders, we had to wait for some encoders. But yeah, recently the last bit that had to be done was in Movie Recorder, getting the encoders, and now we have XDCAM encoding in Movie Recorder, and all that is universal. So, and the thing also to know, for example, with Movie Recorder, is that we are using some encoders from the macOS. So when we are recording to ProRes and H.264, this is using a separate process. It's called an XPC. And this process was already native. So even with a Movie Recorder that is running with Rosetta, so not natively, and encoding to ProRes and H.264, we already had the best performances. In fact, we ran tests and benchmarks. There is no difference in running Movie Recorder with Rosetta or natively when encoding to H.264 and ProRes. But there is one with XDCAM because these processes, which are third party, they were not running natively. And so we saw previously with Rosetta, on a Mac Mini M1, we were able to record only 2 channels of XDCAM, and with now being native encoding XDCAM, we can record 5 channels. So it's more than doubled what we can. So it shows, how we can leverage the power of the M1 computer. And the M1 computer, just in case you don't know, it's very powerful computers. And in terms of encoding, they had done a really great job in encoding HEVC. So on a simple Mac Mini, we can record more than 8 channels of HD to HEVC in real time. So it's really amazing what they have done in that matter.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you no longer need like a super duper system to record, 8 channels, 4 channels. I mean, a typical nonprofit at any given time is probably going to max out at 8 channels on a single computer, and you might have another Mac Mini for redundancy. Maybe you're going to have twice that number for redundancy purposes. That's 2 Mac Minis as opposed to very expensive Mac Pro. It's really
it's amazing what we can do with a Mac Mini, and both for recording and playout, even in ProRes. I don't have the numbers right now, but it's something like 5-6 channels of ProRes in HD. So it's still a lot for a simple Mac Mini that are really affordable. So it really, I think those Mac Mini really bring a lot of power and possibilities, and so very happy with those.
Yeah. And we've mentioned NewTek before. I also wanted to, now they're owned by VizRT.
Yes.
NDI, how about that, Pierre? Could you give us some information about how Softron software works with NDI?
Yeah, so NDI, we started working with NDI a long time ago. I don't remember which version of the SDK it was, but really we're one of the early adopters, because very soon we saw what could be done with NDI. It's an easy to work with protocol, and we saw really the power, and we're starting working with NewTek and Andrew Cross at NewTek, and which has been really a great help, as a very clever guy, and they have done really a great job. So it's really making things easy if you want to play out and or record, and working with video over IP. So we always have the question, because there's SMPT 2110 and so on that is also there, but it's a completely different kind of workflow. With NDI, you can be working on a regular network, and 1 gig and so on, and you can already have quite a few channels there, and that's why it's easy, and that's why we have seen so many third parties integrating that. You have cameras that are doing NDI, you have all sorts of things that are working with NDI. SMPT 2110 is very nice as well, but it requires much more network infrastructure and so on. It will get there, but I think both things will live. So, and I think SDI will still live for a while as well, because once you start working also with network, you have to know how a network works and to configure it properly and so on. Whereas with SDI, it's just a cable you connect from one connector to the other, no setup to be done. So I think it will still be there, while network protocol will bring the ease of use and a lot of possibilities.
Well, I remember back in 2015, I was at the NewTek booth demonstrating Softron with NDI, and we were demonstrating a fill and key for video graphics with on the CG 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And obviously NDI has undergone some changes. So when you say we've been working a long time with NewTek, or now VizRT, obviously, I mean, the thing about Softron is our developers based in Brussels have very tight relationships with the people at Apple and with the people of third parties. And Pierre, you're one of the people who really work to keep those relationships live. And we work with third parties, as well as working with our own developers like Matt and Bryce, to make sure that you're not locked out of anything. Indeed, you have more capabilities of working with more and more products as opposed to fewer and fewer products. I think a lot of times you'll see people, particularly in this industry, they decide, well, we don't want to work with that product, or we don't want to work with that product. We're an open company. We're a company that wants to be as open as possible, working with as many products as possible, within reason, of course. We don't want to work with bad products, but we want to work with great products to make sure that Softron customers not only can use our software, but they can go with the better products that come out from different manufacturers, whether it be to play, HD, 4K, even in the future, different products. So that's really good. Okay. We're coming up on 4 minutes left. I want to give each of our guests an opportunity to say anything else that they want to say about Softron, about their own work at their own facilities. We'll start with Bryce.
Yeah, no, I just think I found your guys' products had a really great time in our sort of upscale here. And I just really appreciate, like I said, the support and the compatibility and sort of the flexibility of being able to, use all of these features, automate features, things like that. So, I'll just say, if you're looking for sort of a robust, easy to use recording solution, Movie Recorder is great. And I thank you guys for having me here today to talk about how we're using it.
Great. Thank you. It was a pleasure having you. Matt?
Yes, sir. Again, Bryce, you said it very, very well. Multiple destination recording, high performance on Apple Silicon, always ahead of the curve from a technology standpoint on Mac OS. You then have, with on-air video, some of the most reliable playback solutions, especially for the house of worship. There are lots of other options out there, and I can tell you so many times where I was seeing failures with other different applications trying to play back things. On-air video is rock solid, and we trusted it and continue to trust it for short playback, long playback, you name it. It is absolutely incredible. And then you just top that, the icing on the cake. It's always the tastiest part, right? With the best support. These guys, like we've said, second to none. I could not recommend Softron and the workflow that you can develop with Softron, from the API to your storage, to your ingest, to your play out, all that stuff working together. There's nothing better. And it's been an honor to know you guys now for the last decade or so. And man, again, Bryce, awesome work again on the work that you did. And thanks, Mike, Daniel, Pierre, everybody for having us today. It's been really great. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Thanks for your comments. I want to remind everybody that we have live session again tomorrow, where we'll be talking about remote production. And in addition to this live session, which is recorded, which will be posted online, we'll be posting that session online so that you could review it or watch it in the future. We had one yesterday on 24/7 broadcast that is currently online. But we have much more on our website too, and much more that is going on with our virtual exhibition. If you want to see a demonstration of any of our products today or tomorrow, you can schedule a one-on-one by going to our website and scheduling something so that you could speak to one of us, find out more information about our product, see how our product actually works, and you get any other question answered about how Softron works that you might have. So we have many spots available that you can register for a one-on-one, and we have tutorials available that are online on our YouTube page. So you can click on those and see some of the new features that are in our applications. There's a host of many things. One of the things that we mentioned is the HyperDeck emulation. We also have a new scheduler in on-the-air video that you might want to take a look at. We again talk there more about the Apple Silicon compatibility. So please visit our website, go there, schedule a one-on-one visit to speak to any one of our people here at Softron. We're all available for you. And that's about all I have to say. So thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, David. I think this was a great opportunity, especially not just for you guys to participate, but for people to learn from real people how our software is being used in their environments. And those of you seeing us tomorrow, look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.